are men and women of God, peacemakers, those who are very concerned about what's happening in our world today. This is what we do in this Stop the Violence in America. It's dealing with guns and all kinds of other violences that are plaguing our society, not only in America, but also around the world. Thank you for coming on this day of January 11th, 2023. I'm sorry if you look at the topic, it says open discussion, but it's really open discussion and highlighting the best practices. We did have a special guest that was supposed to come on, but she could not make it. She will come on at another time. But we want to thank everyone. Welcome to this segment of Stopping the Violence. Today, I would like to go over some of the best practices, some of our past speakers and what they have shared, and we can see that they have come from different angles according to their different experiences that they have had or they're working toward to change violence in America and the various communities that are here in our nation. So today I will just put up my PowerPoint here just to go over who we're going to look at. It's going to be short little clips so that we can have a very valuable and meaningful discussion. Can you see that, everyone?
Yep.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So today, we will be looking at just a clip from Lieutenant Thomas, but Lieutenant Thomas came on with a few others. He came on with Lieutenant Dunn and also the police chief of Bibb County in Macon, Georgia, Sergeant, I believe his name is Sergeant Meadows. They came on with 3 law enforcement officers that came on. But I guess the lead speaker was Lieutenant Thomas, and I thought he had some very valuable points that he wants to make in reference to the violence and our young people. We have the Councilman Emmanuel Remy from Columbus, Ohio. Just a few words that he shared and references his thrust or his contribution as a council member toward the violence in our country, and of course in Ohio. Of course, that's the 3. We had Lieutenant Chris Dunn previously. We have Dr. Madeline Alexander, who you probably see. She's here. She's a pillar of our conversation and what we've been doing here in Stopping the Violence and Crime in America. I'd like you to hear another area of what we don't hear much is about our Native American Indian, what they have gone through in the area of violence and guns. Then we have Pamela Johnson, and she would just share her view. She's from New Jersey City, and she runs a nonprofit organization that is dealing with criminal prevention and intervention in the crime-ridden neighborhood that she's from, and that's New Jersey. And then I'd like to end off with Dr. Faulkner, and the reason why I want to end off Dr. Faulkner is because I like the area or the thrust or the the way in which he's addressing this stopping the violence through a collective and collaborative effort with everyone. So without any further ado, I'm going to start off with our brother, Lieutenant Thomas, if you allow me a few minutes, and I think I can move expeditiously. I did get some lessons prior to so here we go. righty. There you go. And after this, we'll have a open discussion. I think they have said some very valuable points. Oh, well, I have to get the sound. Is something I have to do?
Check two boxes at the bottom of when you press share screen, you check the two boxes to optimize.
Okay. All right, good. Got
Yes.
that. Thanks for bearing with me, everyone. Okay. Right. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Lieutenant Dunn, for sharing with us. Yeah, is that Lieutenant Thomas, Reginald Thomas?
Yes, can y'all hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. Like to hear from you in the area of how we can begin to reduce the crime in our areas that face America, here in America.
Well, first of all, I'd like to apologize for not being able to give y'all a bio of myself and a picture of myself as y'all requested. It's been very difficult times right here, but I would like to start off by introducing myself. My name is Reginald Thomas. I am a lieutenant with the Bibb County Sheriff's Office. I've been in law enforcement for 33 years. I've been in this world for over 50. I'm not going to tell my age. I know I don't look no older than 25. So we're going to leave it like that. But we're facing in Macon, Georgia, as well as the United States of America, all of us are facing the same problems. Our biggest problem is the lack of fear of God. We haven't gotten away from, hello?
Go right ahead. We hear you. Gotcha.
All right, so I was trying to say something. Young folks don't respect and fear what's real. I mean, you think about it, academically, we're behind. Financially, we're behind. And we have a lot, whoever the beings are, to fill our society with negativity. And when I say society, I'm talking about the way we talk to each other, the way we love each other, the way we listen to each other is in our social media circle. And our social media has a big influence on our culture. And I'm talking about the black on black crime right now. It is a tremendous disadvantage for our culture because everything that's in it is negative. We're always talking about killing each other. We're always talking about selling drugs. We're always talking about robbery. We're always talking about gunplay, gun violence. We never talk about how to build a successful culture. It's not in our music. It's not in our reality shows. It's not in our TV shows. It's not on our Facebook. It's not on our TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Nothing we have that influence our young people is positive. Now, back in the day when I was growing up,
I just wanted to share that. No, let me see. I can go to this one. This is Councilman Member Emmanuel Remy.
We can expound on the programs that we have, but thinking about our youth, and particularly as we've seen the effects of COVID, kids not being in school, the COVID changed a lot of things. I know I'm speaking to the choir as it relates. We all lived it, but it particularly hit some of our urban areas in ways that have really, we have yet to recover. And so, we are working very intentionally to make sure that we're funding programs that support our youth to try to be, in a position where we're hopefully preventing youth violence by getting them involved. We've been able to offer here in the city of Columbus millions and millions of dollars every year in the summer to support programs that relate to music or sports, agriculture, lots of community gardening programs, education, the trades, introduction to the trades, is the construction trades and driving trades. And so I just held a hearing last month to talk about the results that we saw over the summer. And we know that we need to broaden the funding that we give so that this doesn't just happen over the summer, but involves and engages our students on an annual basis throughout the year. We also, and I can get into more, I'll stop for a second and see if there's questions based on what I've talked about so far, and I can expound on, you know, some of the work that we're doing.
But my nephew was shot last month coming out of a McDonald's on 4th Street in Wilmington. And our first defense naturally was prayer. He made it through. He's doing well. He's going through some rehab. But the question still, no one knows who shot him, but someone knows who shot him. And those are the things that we're faced with this violence. No one's willing to share the information that they have in reference to what's going on. So we have to surveillance our communities and get into our communities and have those conversations to bring about a change, to bring about a significant change. It's not something that any mature person or any person of right sound mind would want to encounter, but it's obvious that these problems that go along with the violence, because now there are even stabbings. There's the numbers of domestic violence are going up even higher. So what is the cause of all of this volatile anger, these volatile actions? What's the cause? And I think until we start looking at those type things, the cycle will continue. We are the examples of love, and however, it's going to take everybody, everyone, every community, every person to really get involved, to show that love, to make a true difference.
The colonial era still exists today. We're still unraveling and identifying issues within Indian country on how to heal, how to promote healing, how do we come together, and how do we overcome the things that have happened hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So, you know, with that being in place, we have a historical trauma, a generational trauma within tribal communities, and with that taken into consideration, we have all these other issues that tribal communities have yet to advance in and progress in. And so, again, I stand before you, a full-blooded Native American woman, and the statistics that hang over my head is that I am the most stalked, raped, murdered, assaulted, suffer domestic violence than any other ethnicity or race in our country. We have the highest statistics in violence. We have the highest statistics in sexual assault, and we have the highest statistics of lack of justice and remedy to these victimization and the lack of a clear avenue to justice when we are facing these issues, not just for women, just for Indigenous people overall, male and children included. So as you can see, it is a mountain of issues that we face. But I think one thing that is the reason why MMIW or MMIP, Missing Murdered Indigenous Women or Missing Murdered Indigenous Persons, have kind of started to get traction and started to trend throughout our society is because other people care about this. Other people want to care about this. Other people want to do something about it. So I say all that to say that we still have a lot to do in the form of every aspect of public safety, of resources, you know, in my community and the many other tribal communities that I serve. You know, there's not even a shelter. There's not even domestic violence or a sexual assault shelter. And to kind of give you a bird's eye view of it is there's 575 tribes, different tribes within the United States. Only 58 of those tribal communities have a domestic violence or sexual assault or human trafficking safe house shelter. So if you see the issue and you see the comparison of the financial and the resources that is not there for us, this continues to ignite the missing, murdered, and Indigenous persons crisis that we are facing.
Wow, yeah, that's. You know, what we were discussing here is that, and I thank you so much for enlightening us on the people that have been here for thousands of years, and somehow they're not even in our periphery.
City and some other things that was in the short bio. More importantly, I'm a mom, I am a grandmother, and I am simply a resident of Jersey City who wants to see my community improve. And so 8 years ago, myself and some other residents, some who are still working with the coalition to this day, started the Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition movement, which is a community group. We later on created the Anti-Violence Coalition of Hudson County, which is where our 501c3 is, so we can advocate and make a bigger impact, not just in Jersey City, but throughout Hudson County. Most of the violence in Hudson County is located in concentrated areas in Jersey City. So although we do focus our attention and efforts in areas of Jersey City where violence is concentrated, we still do respond to violence throughout Hudson County to see what we can provide direct victim services for residents who are in trauma and going through just severe victimization due to gun violence or violence in general. So I guess I can start off like why we decided to jump into this work in the first place back in 2014. We had Detective Santiago was murdered in Walgreens on Communipaw Avenue, and a call went out on social media for a community meeting to address what was happening in our city. It was a very tense time with police. We had other officers from different municipalities policing our area of Jersey City, and it was just a lot of things happening. And so, we Googled, because we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So we Googled, like, is there any anti-violence coalitions in Jersey City or Hudson County? There was no one addressing what was happening in our community. And so we created that community group to address and focus on gun violence and trauma in our city. We started just on the ground talking to the people, wondering, doing, a census and asking specific questions. Why do you think violence exists in your community? What are some of the ills in your community that people tend to lean towards doing something that will get them in some type of trouble or danger? And so we just started talking to the people in those neighborhoods, and I also want to say that all of us who work for this organization, we're all born and raised in Jersey City, and we all live in Jersey City in those areas where violence is concentrated. I live on Princeton Avenue, and although if you're on Princeton Avenue, you'll say this is a beautiful, beautiful street and beautiful area, but if you go 2 blocks up, you might walk into the middle of a gunfight. So we know what's happening in our city because we live there, and so we actively try to make it better. And so we got the trust of the community. because of our consistency. And today, that's why our work actually works, because, you know, people trust us to do exactly what we say that we're going to do, because we've always done just that. You know, so years later, we talked about running programming and what we can actually do to help our community. And then we started our programming. We started the violence prevention programming, the conflict resolution programming, the mediation, going into the schools, the Jersey City Public Schools and charter schools and private schools, and talking to the youth so we can get them as young as we could, you know, as a way to prevent things from happening. In so many instances, we're always intervening in conflict, trying to de-escalate conflict, but that's somewhat like a police officer. Police are called, you know, after something has happened, while something is happening. In order to really be effective in our work, we wanted to be there before it happened. We wanted to prevent it from happening, because when we get those calls, you know, because gunshots are already firing, you know, somebody's shot or somebody's traumatized from what just happened. So, you know, the bulk of our work is prevention. And, you know, we just began to like take off and do that.
Dr. Oliver, it is truly a privilege and an honor. I'm humbled by the opportunity to come back a second time and share with you all. But as you all are aware, most of our major cities across this country are being plagued, seems like, with more and more violence with each and every passing day. I know we are experiencing that here in Kansas City. We are at 148 homicides so far for the year here in Kansas City, and that's about 20 more than we had this time last year, when we surpassed our second most homicides on record. So we are not in a good place here in Kansas City as it pertains to violence in our city. I am deeply concerned about this, and my concern has led me to an initiative that actually is birthed out of Omaha, Nebraska. It is an initiative called 360, and it's an approach to address violence. It's a violence prevention approach. It's not a program, it's an approach. And by 360, I mean it is all encompassing, bringing stakeholders from every sector of the community together weekly to collaborate and work on this issue of violence collectively. Let me say that again. We are working together. I believe it was Acts chapter 2 when the Bible declared they were all in the upper room and they were praying and they were all on one accord. That's what we are seeking to do with this collective impact model known as 360. Bring people to the table to address issues of violence from a collective community impact standpoint. And so I'd like, if I can, Dr. Oliver, to maybe share my screen with a couple of notes that I want to highlight. I'm going to just talk about maybe 3 or 4 slides, and then I want to just, if there's any questions that I can respond to. But I love the idea that we are looking at this nationally and what we can do nationally, collectively, to address violence across our country. So our strategy is, as I said, a collective impact model, large-scale system of change that requires multiple organizations to work together. Is structured in a strategic alignment that we all have something in common, and that is violence is plaguing our city. This is perhaps the most public health matter or issue that we have seen that affects so many since the civil rights movement of the 1960s. And so we are looking at it from that approach. And this approach, we have seen success across the country and specifically in Omaha, Nebraska, where they are at 40-year record low for homicides and shootings. So the process of change that we're looking at is community engagement and shared decision-making. In Kansas City, I'm not sure if it's like this in other places. I suspect that it is. We have been so siloed in each person working in their little nook or corner of the city to address whatever they have the funds and the means and the capacity to address. But this strategy brings everybody together, and we put our little contribution together and it becomes a lot. And so we create the environment where we can indeed address this sort of culture of violence. It's a culture of violence. Instead of arguing or getting in a fist fight, I'm just going to pull my gun and shoot you. That's a culture. It's become a culture. And so we are working together to address that culture of violence and improve education outcomes along the way. And of course, address root causes of violence, which we know some of those are driven by poverty and economic development or lack thereof. There are general public and private investments that are required to make this happen. And as we think
Your screen sharing stopped. And you're muted. Just FYI.
You know, this technology doesn't work. You want it to work. You want it to work, you know. So I'm trying to cut it off, and it's taking me a variety of places. But anyway, God bless you. I thought that this would be a time. I took the first 30 minutes to look at those prolific speakers and people who are addressing the issues, who are on the ground. It's very important. I think they have come from pretty much different angles. It's the first one started with a culture. It says we have developed a certain culture. He says we're not through TikTok, and that's just beyond the Black culture or the white culture, or it's just the culture in TikTok, Facebook, the media is grandizing, glorifying negativity, and it's influencing our children. And at the end, Dr. Faulkner, Reverend Faulkner, is saying the same thing. This gun violence is becoming a culture. So, and we're looking at, another aspect of our Native Americans. We don't look at them and how violence is even plaguing them as well, and in the manner that it does. So I really wanted to bring her, highlight what she was sharing as well, because it's still part of our American society and how our society is playing a key role, or should be playing a stronger role in reducing the violence that is plaguing our society. And then, of course, we had Dr. Faulkner, the councilman. His area was basically, how we can fund different programs. So what I'm saying here is that, and Pamela Johnson, she's on the ground. This is a very, very excellent point that she was making. We are in New Jersey. We are part of that community. We are the stakeholders that are taking responsibility as well. So I just would like to open up any discussions to any questions or any added points that someone would love to make on this and what we've been sharing thus so far? The floor is open. A lot was said, gentlemen and ladies.
Well, while somebody's gathering their thoughts to make a point, I just wanted to say I was so impressed with the law enforcement that we had on. They didn't say, oh, those bad kids. They realized why these kids were acting the way they were, and they took responsibility for it. And that is huge. If that's the kind of people you've got taking care of this day after day, even with the pressure, it's wow, there is hope. Just a comment.
Yeah, thank you very much. And also, I didn't mention Dr. Madeline Alexander, who's on as well, but what she had shared too, we have to look more closely at what is the root cause. What is the root cause of this? There's a root cause to everything. And then how do we handle that root cause? Floor is open.
Yeah. Reverend Oliver, greetings,
Yes.
everyone. Happy New Year. What's really standing out in mind is one, I think it was Miss Pam Johnson. She said they didn't reinvent the wheel. They worked off of information they had, and they're supporting their community. And then to go to Dr. Faulkner, he talked about working together collectively, bringing everybody into the table. And I think as we move forward and bringing things together, to be mindful in which you are, just strategic in what you do, for us to be able to gather the information, work together collectively, not reinvent the wheel. It was interesting. I was watching the news earlier this week, and this guy was having meetings at his barbershop, and they called it barbershop talk, but they had young men in there from the age of like 14 to 18 and served them pizza, but they were really able to share and felt free in expressing themselves. So I think getting behind those type of grassroots groups and supporting them, and if necessary to even guide them to help them build their foundation and to work to collectively to continue, as they have a small group, continue to support them, that the groups can get larger, because I think that is our, for lack of a better word, our targeted population. Young people from the age of, I'll go as low as 12, if not even younger. But as we're talking about young men that's already out in the community and are witnessing these violent acts, if we can save one, that'll be rewarding, but naturally we want to save them all. So those are the things that I have taken away from the inserts.
Thank you very much. It reminded me, I really appreciate it, especially about the barbershop. When I was like 7 years old or something, my dad used to take me to the barbershop, get my hair cut. And one day he told me why. He said, I didn't take you just to get your hair cut. He said, those men in there cutting your hair, many of them might not have the greatest education, but what they have is a deep, insightful wisdom that you can learn from. And so you listen very carefully. And I think that's a lot of, if you go to the barbershops, a lot of conversations go on. And that's where a lot of kids come and they listen. That's when they're sitting still and they're listening to the insights that are going on. So I really appreciate you bringing it. That's a very excellent point. You might have to strategically go in barbershops and help them understand.
That's right.
Those kids go in there and they have conversations. I mean, they have real deep, it's like going to a conference in the barbershop. I don't know, especially the Black barbershops. It's very deep conversations that go on. Well, thank you very much for that insight. And thank you for what you were sharing too, which was incredible, because we have to start looking at the root cause of all problems, And that's where you begin to come up with some better, what you call it, resolutions to the issues and problems. Anyone else?
Reverend Franklin had his hand up, and
Oh.
also Ray McCready. Reverend Franklin?
Yes, please. Welcome,
I wanna
Reverend
make a-
Franklin.
After that,
Hey,
I want to
hello,
make a
everybody.
comment, Reverend Oliver.
Go ahead.
Now
Go
or
ahead,
later?
Reverend. No, Reverend Franklin's on, and then we'll get you, Nassau, right after that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Yeah, Reverend Oliver, everyone, Dr. Alexander, everybody who's on this call, thank you so much. At first, before I begin, I just want to give all praise and all glory to God. And I really mean that sincerely, because God has blessed me with 68 years of life today.
Oh, happy birthday.
I just had to say that, you know.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate what everybody was saying, you know, because, you know, just like as, you know, Dr. Alexander was saying, you know, yeah, the solutions are out there. And I've been so blessed just to be on board in these conversations, to hear so many really good gems of what people who are really out there on the front line are doing substantial work to address this concern. And so the thing which I find very disturbing is that whatever there is in news and there is a gun situation that happens, we hear, especially out of Washington, that we need to pass new gun legislation. It's almost like a knee-jerk reaction. And I can't tell you how much that really irritates me. It's just like saying that vitamin C is absorbic acid. I mean, that's just one component. Vitamin C contains other different types of nourishment, nutrients that composite the substance, as we know, is vitamin C. You can't just go and have 5 violins and say this is an orchestra. What about the drums? What about the oboes? What about the other different types of instruments, the horns, the trumpets? Collectively, that makes an orchestra. And what we are seeing is from this collective conversation of the insights that are surfacing up in these conversations are different steps to address this. Now, as you all said, you know, it's so many things. I got so much hope because we saw last week a wonderful expression of the collective effort of prayer for, I believe it is Lamar Hamlin. I believe that the young man who got injured in that Buffalo and Cincinnati game last Monday. And, you know, and you find both teams, the city of Cincinnati, the city of Buffalo, all across America were praying for this man, this young man, and he recovered. Thank God, the power of prayer to provide us the insights where we can really address that. And collectively, as we work to look, what were the circumstances in the 1960s when you didn't have that? Did we have technical schools in high school to teach men how to learn, how to become carpenters, how to become auto mechanics? Gym curriculum was taken out, music is taken out. And so where is the outlet? We become so desensitized towards violence where we're allowing, when we see video games, when we see TV on things on television, it doesn't really affect it. That is an issue. That is an issue because it is so ironic how it has to affect us personally before we really become serious about it. But that should not be. So let's continue to evoke prayer so we can really inherit that sensitivity where we can address these collective things and create some real substantial plan to address that and create healing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Franklin, for your insights. And while you were just sharing, I thought about the first speaker we can go into as well, because he really he addressed the point that I think we all need to address, and that is that we have developed a culture, and what has compounded in the inundation, if you will, of that culture is negativity, and negativity is even driven by social media. So we can look at that. And, I just thought about just recently, a kid was just a 6-year-old went into school in Virginia and took a gun out and just shot his teacher. What is that all about? Was it the video games? Where did he get the, just every movie, every program, every social media is talking about murder this person, kill this person, all that kind of thing. So that's what's happening. Want to welcome both Ray McCready and Nassar. My brother Nassar, God bless you. Good to see you. Welcome. Yes, sir.
Oliver,
yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate for this program. You are great. I really respect you a lot. You know that. You talk about haircut, and this came to my mind to share with you because, the haircut is really very interesting, actually, job to serve people, and you feel a good connection with a person because you're doing haircut. You serve in the body of the person to do haircut. So one time, I, as the Universal Peace Federation director in Los Angeles, came to my mind to go to downtown Los Angeles among homeless people, which is the most homeless area in America. And I put a gazebo and I put a sign, the Universal Peace Federation, free haircut for homeless people. And then I saw first some people came and suddenly lined up, and I put $1 also free, and then I pay you $1 also. Then I saw a big line of 20, 30 people lined up. I said, oh my gosh, how can I do that? So anyway, during doing haircut for those homeless people, same time I was asking them, hey, what happened that you end up in the street? What happened to you? Can you share with me? And most of them, almost all of them, they were saying about their family. They said, I don't know who was my father. I didn't see my mother. I've been neglected. I've been punished by my parents, this, that. And it was so sad to listen to, sorry, just give me a minute. To listen to all of these, painful stories that they share with me. And I look at each one of them and I thought that, these people are children of God. They live like worse than even animals. They smell bad, they sleep in the sidewalk, they do, urine. It was terrible. It's like really mental hospital. So that's why I got a little bit emotional because I felt how God look at these children and feel about, those young, actually, mostly young people. They end up to live like that, in the garbage, in terrible situations. So the point is, I want to say, is the problem that everybody shared with me was the family. Family was broken. Family, is the main and cornerstone of society. If we don't fix the family value, if they don't fix the family, and we don't educate people about true love in the family, then all kind of problems comes up. You know, gun violence is just one of them. Sexuality, drug, this, that, loneliness, suicide. You can see society is packed. You look at the news, you see there is nothing good news from beginning to the end. And all of these people that I did haircut for them, they were all kind of race. They were white, Spanish, black, Asian, all kind. It's not just one culture, one nation, or one, group of people. So, my point is how we can really go to the root of the problem. Just want to make a short story about Sheriff Baca. Sheriff of Los Angeles was Sheriff Baca for 16 years. He was the most popular and most respected sheriff, and I become very close friend with him. I brought him to UPF, and then he shared with me so many things. But one thing that really touched my heart was he was educating people in the prison. He figured that none of those prisoners, they went to even high school to get education. So he made high school classes in the prison and invited them to come and join the classes. At least you can learn something and be proud of yourself and get your high school diploma. And one of the prisoners, he was sharing with me that, he finished his term, and they told him that, you are free to go home. And that guy said to sheriff, I don't want to go home. Said, why? He said, because I have 3 more months to finish my class. So I didn't want to go back. So I figured that, somebody like sheriff as a leader of the authorized person in the government would take care of this prisoner, how he really took care of them, how he loved them. And he was saying that, prison is not for punishment, it's for education. And this is exactly what Father Moon said, that, prison is not for punishment. Of course, we have to eliminate when people do crime, terrible situation, killing, all of this thing, but still, how we can educate even those bad guys for the case they go back to society, they can be a better person. So again, sorry to share too much and I become a little bit emotional, but I really listen to all of you and see that, what's the root of the problem and how we can reach to that. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you, Nassar. It's true. This is what it's all about. We have to look at the root cause. And we also, why I put the law enforcement gentleman to speak, because they're part of the equation. And it's good to have the law enforcement involved and not in the intervention, but the prevention aspect of it. And they can play a very critical role in that process. Thank you so much, Nassar, for sharing that. And thank you so much for your heart. And I know that when you really listen and talk to those people, we look at them from a distant eye or detached eye. But as you said, they're God's children and they have some deep feelings that we're not aware of that has everything to do with triggering them into behaviors that are unbecoming. Thank you again. Ray McCready, God bless you. How are you? Welcome.
Reverend Oliver, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, since you've already heard from the West Coast, my beloved brother Nasser Zomran, just very briefly, I'm really enjoying the program, learning a lot. I think some people think that Seattle, where I am, doesn't have issues, and yes, they do. It's a land of stark differences. You have Amazon, the founder, and you have my son's a recruiter for some of these things, and they recruit people. Their base salary is over $100,000. Meanwhile, you can go to used to be just downtown. Now it's many places all around the Seattle area. There's homeless people that basically are mirroring what Nasser mentioned is, they're difficult to be with, etc. But I'm learning a lot through the program, Dr. Alexander and each speaker, and I really appreciate that. And I'm grateful that you're leading this because I think it's something all our cities do. All our cities have, you know, those kind of things going on. Like I had to go downtown a couple years ago serving on a jury. I think I'm getting a little feedback from your mic there, Reverend Oliver. So like you go down to the court, but then they warn you, don't go out on the south side of the building because it's become so dangerous right outside the court building that they recommended you go off the other side. So, and I'll tell you, you don't see Bill Gates down on 3rd Avenue in Seattle. You don't see him down there where it's very dangerous. You don't see Jeff Bezos there either. So yeah, it's this kind of juxtaposition. And of course, then, you know, a lot of things in each city. In Seattle, the north area is generally safer than the south area. So it's a lot of things to deal with, but I'm grateful you're getting into the root causes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Grady, for your comments. I greatly appreciate it. I remember being in Washington for the first time last year, year before last. Yeah, and I did see the homeless population. They really spread it. They're even on the freeway, highway. As you go off the freeway, they're lined up all the way down the freeway. It's very interesting. I've never seen that one before, but yeah, thank you for your comments. Anyone else, as we come to our close? We have some people on that would like to share a point or two. Reverend Stoner, how are you?
Thank you very much. Reverend Oliver, it's always a very rich experience receiving so much information and the testimonies of so many. I just am reflecting on how, in addition to an overabundance of guns and excessive drugs, I think at this particular time of the year when we reflect on our precious brother, Dr. Martin Luther King, we need to really search for ways in which we can reduce, if not eliminate, the disunity between different races, different groups, even different lifestyles, different belief systems, and really begin to see God in each other and to really try to commune with God by recognizing there's something I can learn and inherit from each person. So I'm really anxious to join together with many of these other solutions, and also Dr. Madeline Alexander. She's a champion here in Indianapolis. So we're going to try to make some changes in Indianapolis for you.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. As we come into close, I would like to, any remarks on the first speaker. Actually, of course, I love the Reverend Faulkner, because Reverend Faulkner is where I am at. How do we collectively come together with the collective body of people who have best practices that comes from different angles, and each angle is equally important? And how do we bring them all together to, be the catalyst on a national level of reducing crime? It's possible. But the first speaker mentioned the other elephant in the room, and that is the social media. How social media is not playing any good role in helping to reduce crime. Actually, it's actually in music, and it's actually seems like perpetuating it, glorifying acting ugly and doing ugly things as if it's cute, but it's not. It's become destructive. Anybody like to comment on that?
Reverend Franklin's got his hand up.
Yeah, Hans, I think I look like Hans first. Well, let Hans go first. Hans, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Reverend Oliver, and hello to everyone. I live in the suburbs, and I hear from my neighbors who work as both a security guard at one of our junior high schools, and whose wife is actually involved with the police department.
that really the culture in our public schools has been transformed in a way that we wouldn't recognize. So that's one point. The other point, it seems that the political activity here in Pennsylvania is targeting the school boards as the place to make a difference. So again, I'm just hearing these things. I'm not involved in them. I should be more, but I'm not. I'm just learning at this point. But so I'll just leave it at that, Reverend Oliver, and thank you for this program. I really appreciate the insights that were shared, especially our Native American community. That is really, a big wound in our country that we need to address. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it, Brother Hans. How about you, Reverend Franklin? Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate my good brother, my old friend Hans. Thank you. I appreciate him bringing up that point.
My birthday's on the 18th, so we'll.
Okay. Let me write that down.
So happy birthday to you both. God bless you.
My man. So I really appreciate him bringing out, that point about education, because that is really important, because that is really a national emergency in and of itself. For the largest freest country on earth that has the largest tolerance of religion and spiritual faiths to be so low in education, it's almost an abomination in my humble opinion, because what is being little by little taken out is the strengthening of the capacity of our students to critically think. Now, if more and more we learn how to be able to get our students involved with critically thinking, well, then that will also trigger a natural a spirit of self-awareness and self-insights. And then there would be a natural transition of talking about spirituality, spiritual things, spiritual components. And the reason why that's necessary is because it's very easy to be negative. That's the easiest thing in the world to do, is to be negative. But if we have that critical thought, really emphasize to install the type of character that helps us to develop our ability and harness our ability to be able to successfully process difficulties and struggles, that unleashes a natural awareness of creativity. Those areas of creativity are the areas where miracles can surface, realizations can surface, rebirth and transformation within the minds and hearts of our children. So that's one thing that shows up as I hear these conversations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, and it's true. It is true. Anyway, we need a world of a world that values positivity. And then what we see today, we have a world that's, like I said, I'm just listening to what's going on in our media and even these little games kids play on the computer. All of it is negative. All of it's not looking at anything positive. It's not sharing anything about how do you do good. What's the value of goodness? And when you do good, there's value to that, and so these are some of the components that are contributing to the ills of our society and also contributing to violent behavior. Why would that little kid at 6 years old go into his class and shoot his teacher?
Right.
what is on a 6-year-old mind that he can pull that trigger? You know, and absolutely, the gun was not an illegal gun. His mother had his illegal gun. Right. So what game was he playing? What, you know, some of the, I hate to say, some of my little gangster rap, they're being, I didn't realize until I was reading an article recently that they're being prosecuted because of their words coming out of their songs that are perpetuating murder and hate. And some of the people have been victims or been influenced by their particular song that has caused some death. I didn't know that they were prosecuting people based on that, you know, but we don't want to look at that. That's easy to look at. Like you said, it's easy to look at negative stuff. That's easy. But how do you look at what is needed to turn that around? You know, those are God's children. And how has society, we as a collective body, been able to reach their conscience? Because there's no components in the environment that is reaching or encouraging or cultivating their conscience. Because we are inundated by society and social media that, like I said, is grandiose, to be ugly, to say nasty things, to use the F word, you know, constantly, as that's just normal. The conclusion I would like to say is from both sides, and I think someone else said, is that we have not fought hard enough to build a culture of goodness. It's all about a culture that is developing. A gun culture has developed, and it's been okay to tote a gun around. So I want to thank everyone for coming on again. Really want to push people to bring, you know, someone else on and spread the news. And we're working on how we can work as a collaborative effort. I am discussing with many of the speakers. They're excited about coming together and making something happen. Before we close, my dear brother, who is always moving and helping and supporting, Reverend Geller, if you'd like to say some closing words. I didn't know you were, I didn't see that you were. I didn't see that hand.
Well, thank you.
Everything
Thank you so
on.
much for giving me the last moment here.
Yeah, sure.
So I just wanted to, you know, reiterate and remind everyone of 2 points that I thought were very important during this conversation, which is Mr. Nasser Zamorad brought up the point of the family. And about that, we have historical problems in America that really need to be addressed and understood from the perspective of all the years. Like, for example, all the welfare society that has been built up since the 60s and the damage that has done to especially the African American family. I believe the solution to that problem is going to come when many of us start to really feel the pain and the suffering that people have gone through, so that we can be compassionate, more compassionate, and make effort for that purpose. And then the other issue I wanted to emphasize was Reverend Franklin's issue about young people and education. Really, you know, over the years, actually, from the dumbing down of America to today's issues concerning young people, we need to hear more of the voice of common sense, the voice of God about how to care for children and how to raise them in such a way that they can make a significant contribution to our society and stop this destructive, negative behavior. So I thank you for calling on me, Reverend Oliver, and I'll close with that. I can't hear you. Okay.
There were meaningful words that we need to really look at I think these discussions can go on for a couple of hours.
Exactly.
In reality, and you said a mouthful, and I really appreciate it. It's true. As our American Indian sister, our Native American Indian sister, I think as you go through her full sharing, what she's basically saying is that America is neglected. Because of the neglect, it helped to perpetuate and compound more of dysfunction within our Native American communities. So when we say America, we're not just talking about the government. We're talking about all of us. We all have to play a critical role in the healing of our nation. So I want to thank everyone again for coming on, and God bless you. Hope to see you. We will look forward to seeing you next week. And please bring a guest and pass the word on. God bless you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nassar. Thank you, Reverend Franklin. Thank you always, Dr. Alexander. Thank you, Bruce. I didn't see Bruce Grotner, but Bruce Grotner, who is is working with our pastors around the world, around this nation, who are critical players in reducing crime because their churches are in those communities. John Healy, always good to see you.
Hey, good to see you, Rick.
Yes, and
thank you so much.
and everyone else. God bless you, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Thank you,
Thank you, everyone.
McCready.
God bless you all. Happy birthday, guys.
Happy birthday.
All right.
Daryl and Hans.
Good to see you, Hans.
Thank you, Reverend Oliver.
Thank you, Reverend Stoner, also. Yeah.
Yeah,
God
God
bless
bless.
you.
Looking forward to seeing you Friday, Stoner.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
take
Bruce,
care.
we have to hear
Happy
your
birthday.
voice next time.
Sorry.
Hey,
All right. God bless everyone. Take care.
Bless.
God bless.
God bless. Thank you.